Dick Detaege gives us a glimpse into the Henry and Margaret Detaege family. Dick referred to his writings as old-time memories, a season for everything. In Dick's words, hard as those days were, I'd give anything to have them come back. Less stress. Now farms have become factories and business. Then a farm was survival. You had your meat, your milk, your vegetables. You even had your own wood. Seems like there was a season for everything. Our Detaege story begins in 1823 when Petrus Detaege was born in Saint Laurent, Belgium, a village on the border with Holland. His wife Marie van de Winkel was born in 1831 and lived in the same village. Petrus and Marie married and eventually had 8 children, 4 of whom emigrated to the United States. Of the 4, Charles chose Chicago. He had no offspring. The remaining 3, Matilda, August, and Andrew, settled in Oconto. Matilda married Jacob Woodcock and had 4 children, Louis, Emma, August, and Peter. Their farm adjoined the current Oconto Airport. August settled in Oconto where he met and married Mary Hannah and farmed in Cullardville. Their 2 children were Joseph and Alice. Joseph married Viola Risto, and they had 2 children, Janice and Joseph Jr. Dick recalled the stories of his grandfather Andrew arriving in America and seeking work in the wheat fields of South Dakota and southwestern Minnesota. Now hear that story as narrated by Paul Detaege.
Andrew, my grandpa, was born on April 16, 1865. He came to America in 1894 at age 29 and lived in Chicago for a short time. Then he went to work in the wheat fields with the 2 other men. They went out there by train to the wheat fields of South Dakota and southwestern Minnesota. Aunt Marie said one of the men's name was Art Overbeck and the other was Ed Maddie or Madden. It was in the fall of the year when a man out there asked them to stay and farm with them. I know one of them stayed and became a farmer in Marshall, Minnesota, but Grandpa and this other man came back by horse and buggy. They had no road maps, nothing. Just went cross country by watching the sun for their direction. They'd stop for the horse to eat grass or whatever and rest some. Grandpa and this man would see some potatoes, whatever, and would dig a hill of potatoes, make a fire and bake some potatoes to eat. It took 3 weeks to come back. They took their time. When they got by Shawano, Wisconsin, they stopped and rested a while. A man was talking to Grandpa and saw that horse and had told Grandpa, "I'd like to buy that horse," the man kind of thought. "The horse has a history." Grandpa said, "Nope, that horse brought us all the way this far and is going to take me back home and then get a good rest."
Dick then shares the stories of Andrew finding a bride and starting the home farm.
Starting the home farm, early 1900s. While Grandpa was in the wheat fields, Uncle August wrote him about some land for sale near him. It was 40 acres. On November 4th of 1901, Grandpa bought it for $284. My grandpa and grandma, his bride-to-be, here in America, they bought it together. She was born on September 23rd, 1875, and came from St. Marguerite, Belgium. She was one of 10 children. Her sister, Louise, came to America before Grandma and married Peter DeWint. Louise wrote Elodie, my grandmother, about Andrew, my grandfather, asking her to come to America, and she did. I don't know how long they went together, but they got married July 16, 1902 at St. Joseph's Church in Oconto, Wisconsin. Her sister, Louise, and Grandpa's brother, August, were their attendees. Grandpa was 37 then, and Grandma was 27. My grandparents lived in town for a while, then bought the farm in 1904. It was 23 acres located on the same side of the Oconto River down the road from Uncle August. Grandpa and Grandma had 3 children. Henry Charles, my dad, born October 2nd, 1906. Uncle Art, born April 29th, 1910. And Aunt Marie Louise, born May 1st, 1917. All of them grew up on the home farm. My grandmother was a small woman, hard of hearing, and liked to work outside a lot. I was told one year she cut 30 cord of wood by herself. Seems like she did everything on the run. She raised strawberries, lots of vegetables, anything, even apples, and would take them with the team and wagon to town to peddle them for whatever she could get. Times were hard. She never crocheted or sewed, but she liked to knit. She knit a lot of socks and mittens. I was told she liked playing cards, and they would play smear, one game that she liked and would really get into, even pounding her fist on the table. Ma's family. Her mother became known as Mimi to us, meaning grandma in French. She was all Canadian, French, and spoke it fluently. Grandma to us meant French. Mimi was a very kind and joyful little lady that everyone seemed to like, not just because she always had cookies every time someone would stop by her house. She had a way about her that drew the relatives close. She was a peacemaker and often enjoyed a little cordial glass of wine. At Mimi's funeral, there were 13 priests on the altar, and Father Philip Hoffman gave a beautiful eulogy.
While Henry was the first Detaege to leave home, he met his wife-to-be, Margaret, while working with her only a few miles away at the Clausen farm. Dick now reminisces about his parents.
Henry and Margaret. Henry, my dad, had real thick, dark hair and never did go bald. He was the first one to leave home and worked in Milwaukee for a while. He moved around some, then worked on a farm a couple miles away. They hired several people to work on that farm. I think they said he was a congressman. Ma and her sister Libby both worked there at the same time as Dad. That's how they met. I guess Ma and Dad went together about a year or so. They got married by Father Louise at 8 a.m. on January 27, 1926 at St. Peter's Catholic Church in Oconto. Ma and Dad had 5 children. My sister Dolores was the oldest. She was born July 11, 1927. I'm the second oldest, and then Ray and Bernard were close together. Ray was born on October 2nd, 1936. Same month and day as Dad's birthday. Bernard was born on February 27th, 1938. Byron, the youngest, was born September 19th, 1941.
Well, I'm Dick Detaege. I was born in Oconto. I had 3 brothers and 1 sister. When I was 8 years old, we moved out to the farm here at Coolerville. Attended Coolerville School. Raised a lot of different things. They raised pickles and beans and cash crops in those days, along with because you didn't have big amount of milk cows in those days.
Yeah.
We were one of them around here that raised a lot of sugar beets. And then we raised cabbage. And then, of course, pickles and beans. In those days, they did everything by hand.
Mm-hmm.
I think we took the beans to Conkle's. I think that was a weigh station.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar beets, we took to O'Connell, loaded them in what they call, I think, gondola cars. Put them right on the rail. And the cabbage were at Bonds, and so were the pickles at Bonds. I guess they were all put in to help pull you through at the time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But seemed everybody liked their pickles.
Yeah.
Because it was something that if there wasn't a yield today, well, maybe next week would be better, you'd get a better yield.
Yeah. So, say a little bit about you and your brothers growing up on the farm.
Well, everybody, like every other place, everybody had their thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ray was the one that liked to have a lot of fun. It had rained the night before, and there were pickles. We had pickles planted in the field behind the barn. There was a long sloping hill to the river. It was a real slippery soil down by the river. And Ray was going to go pretty fast with the tractor. We had maybe 50 bags of pickles on the wagon at that time. And he was going to make a short turn to come on the short way back. Instead, the whole works went in the river.
Oh,
So that means snake that out and get all the pickles out.
goodness.
But it was part of their growing up, I guess.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and when Bernard was real young, one night he didn't come home from high school. They were riding the bus then. In those days they had the bus, but he went over to Norbert Carey's and got a job. He said, "Mom, Dad, I'm going to work for Norbert for a while," and he did. He worked. I don't know how long he worked at Norbert Carey. He lived right with them.
While he was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that something?
Yep. They treated him good. 44, we got our first tractor, a little two-plow case tractor. He bought it in stock in Scanlon when they had that farm where Keith Everett lives on. And then one day, Dad got a big John Deere. I remember Gail came over and said, "Henry, finally you got a good tractor." Because Gail liked John Deere's. I think about in 47 we got our milking machine. It was a Surge. I think Ed Delano was more or less like a spotter for the Kozlowskis at Coleman who installed them. I remember Ed was there when we milked the first time. That was a big improvement over by hand. You only had 20 cows or so in those times, but that was kind of nice to have the milker.
Yeah.
It was I remember when we installed it, Ed was there. And yeah, that was nice. And as far as the milk hauling, we had, for years and years, well, whenever they started, Norbert Carey's, one of the boys would haul, not always Norbert, no. Mm-hmm. Lester or whoever would haul milk. They enjoyed the snow. They enjoyed putting the chains on their truck and going through as much snow as they could.
Tell me about how you and Barb met and how that all kind of worked out.
It was the night of Chum Sherman's wedding, where I was invited. No, our family was invited to the reception. So I went, and Barb had just, I guess the day before, had come back from California, and she was at her sister's, and her sister and husband went there. So I saw her, and I thought, well, she looks like the one I should marry. And I did, a year later.
Is that right? This is the first time you'd seen her?
That's the first time I'd seen her.
Wow, they darn.
Because we had a year to get to know each other.
So,
make sure it was,
how'd that work? I mean, you must have did a good job. I mean,
well,
you
I
were
know,
successful.
we get along good.
I mean, you did a good job, so she decided that she still wanted you after a year.
Well, we gave each other all the chances there were to see if it was to be or not.
Yeah, great.
It seemed to work out okay.